Hello everyone, it's Friday, we're live on the Trade Decorator Festival. Thank you for joining us, and if you're over on Facebook joining us, welcome to the session. There is still time for you to click on the link in the post and come over and join us on Crowdcast if you'd like to be involved in our live Q&A later in the session. So what's happening today? Well, I'm going to be joined live by Matt Burnham from Shurtape, and he's going to be talking to you about FrogTape. We have got a demonstration of the FrogTape products and of its unique properties. And then, as I say, Matt will join us live for a Q&A where you'll get your opportunity to put questions to him. Now, if you're new to Crowdcast, take a look around. Feel free to comment in the comments box. And if I could ask you to just wait until we go to the Q&A before you start typing your questions in, as things in this session will not transfer through to the Q&A. So let's have a look at the demonstration.
Hi, I'm Matt from Shurtape. Today we're going to show you how you can use FrogTape, painter's masking tape, as a tool to increase your productivity, efficiency, and ultimately lead to better profits for you. Frog is a completely unique product. It has a polymer on the edge, which is, as you can see, there is a white frost on the edge of the tape. This polymer reacts instantly with the paint and sets a barrier to mean that you get a lovely, crisp, sharp line. So we'll demonstrate that now. So as with all masking tapes, you apply firmly, and then apply paint. And as with all masking tapes, you should remove the tape while the paint is still wet. What's happening at the minute, a chemical reaction is taking place along the edge of the tape. The polymer is in here. The polymer is called PaintBlock. The polymer reacts with water to create a barrier. The paint hits the edge of the tape and this reaction takes place. It hits and it sets instantly, therefore giving you a crisp, clean line. So we'll now remove the tape from there and we'll see that reveals lovely, sharp lines. You will note that we have three types. We have the green, which is for multi-surfaces, so that's for glass, tiles, ceramics, untreated wood and cured paint. The yellow one is for delicate surfaces, so that's for wallpaper, new paint, new plaster. And the orange one is for gloss and satins paint, so when you're painting skirting boards, architraves, woodwork, things like that. Just a couple of differences between the yellow and the green. So as we said, it's a delicate surface product, so that means that it treats the surface delicately. It's a low tack tape. Again, you should remove the tape while the paint's still wet. And how we can prove that this is a low tack or a delicate surface, if you did that to a standard masking tape, then you never get it apart, but the adhesive always stays in the tape and therefore it's delicate on the surface. Couple of little tricks. If you're finding that you're getting what's known as a pull when it's damaging the surface underneath, if you heat it with a hairdryer or a heat gun, something like that, that heat will soften the adhesive and help the tape remove cleanly. You should always test on an inconspicuous area first, just to make sure that you have a compatible surface. The reason why Frog is supplied in a box is the box is there to protect the edge of the tape. What you're using masking tape for is to get a straight line. The bit that gives you the straight line is the edge, but that's also the easiest part to damage. So if you damage the edge in any way, it's no longer a straight line. Kind of makes sense now. So by replacing it back in its box as you're using it and as you finish using it, that means you'll use an entire roll of tape. You think of how many times you threw on another brand of tape in your toolbox and it's got nicked on the edge and you've never used all of it. So that you use an entire roll of tape. The gloss and satin is when you're painting skirting boards and architraves, as I said earlier. Again, little trips on that because you can have two types of paint when you're painting woodwork. So it can either be a solvent-based product where you wash your brushes out in a white spirit or a brush cleaner, or a waterborne product where you wash your brushes out in a soapy water. If it's a solvent-based product, you need to run a damp cloth. You apply the tape and then run a damp cloth down the edge just prior to painting. And that means then that you'll get a lovely crisp straight line. It kickstarts a little reaction that we did earlier and will give you a lovely crisp finish. They all come in 2 sizes. So they all come in a 24mm, which is an inch size. So that's all 3 across the board. And then they all come in a 36mm, which is inch and a half. The green one on its own is also available in a 48mm, so 2 inch.
Hello everyone, welcome to this afternoon's Q&A session, and I'm joined live by Matt Burnham from Shurtape. Hello Matt, thanks for joining us.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon everybody in the session. Matt, are you going to do a little demonstration for us, aren't you, first of all?
Yes, well, yeah, just talk you through a little bit more about Shurtape, but yes.
Okay, well, I will let you have the screen then, and that way everybody can see what you're doing.
Okay. Maybe they don't want to, but hi, good afternoon everybody, and thank you for taking the time to listen to me this afternoon. What I thought I'd do is just give you a little bit of background about Shurtape. So Shurtape are the manufacturers of FrogTape, and we can chase our history back right into the 1880s. Where we're sort of based in the States as a global, as a manufacturer of rope and twine and spun yarns. We're a family-owned business. We do now have global sites, global manufacturing sites with 13 factories across the globe. Some of the other brands that we make that you might actually know are things like, so 1980, we bring you duct tape, which is one of our very famous brands. So that's for fixing, bonding, repairing things. I'm sure you've all used duct tape. In the year 2000, we acquired a company called KIP, which is a German manufacturer of pressure-sensitive painter's tapes. So we have those as well. And then in 2010, we bring you FrogTape, and we launched Shurtape UK. 2015, we bring you T-Rex tape, which is, again, it's a thick, strong fixing, binding, repairing tape. It's almost like if you think a duct tape on steroids. So that was just to give you a little bit of background. So we make other things other than FrogTape. Now, one of the other things we're going to try something a little bit different when we go into the Q&A session is that if you want to come up on screen, maybe it'll tip you over the edge, but what we will do is, or I will sort of organise a little bit of a gift pack for you. So if you're brave enough to come up on screen, Paula will have your email address, she'll pass that to me, and then what I'll do is I'll get in touch with you and ask for your postal address, but we'll organise you a FrogTape bag for life, a little screen cleaner, if you can see that, and also a duck key fob, but it's only for you guys that are brave enough to come up on screen and ask questions as part of the Q&A session. So I think that's sort of me for now. So if you're there, Paula.
I'm coming back.
Thank
Don't
you.
worry.
I can dance, I'll film.
I'm just waiting for the video. Right, okay. So if you are brave enough to come up on screen and ask Matt your question directly, because I see we've got a couple of questions in the ask a question box already. If you could just type in the comments and just say you'll come up on the screen, and I'll invite you up and you can speak to Matt directly and ask him your question. If you're not brave enough, don't worry, we'll still carry on with the Q&A. You can hit the ask a question tab and type your questions in there, and I will read them out for you. So if we get started then, Matt, what makes FrogTape different from other masking tapes?
So Frog is completely different to every other masking in that it has a polymer on the edge of the tape. So you can see there on the edge of the tape, there's like a white frost. So the frost is called PaintBlock. So only FrogTape has PaintBlock on the edge, and PaintBlock is designed to react with the water in emulsion paints. So in here we have, or I have, the polymer, and the water now is going to play the part of the paint. So when the paint hits the edge of the tape, this reaction takes place. So it hits, and then what you'll see is it's actually set instantly and forms a micro barrier then to keep the edge nice and sharp. So as soon as the paint hits the edge of the tape, that reaction takes place and you don't get any paint bleed underneath the paint.
Fantastic. I've got a question from Vincent Boom. He says, hi, will this stick and create clean lines on a gritty, rough surface?
You would have to try it. I'm thinking what type of surface? You'd have to use the green one, but you'd have to try it a little bit. We actually do an exterior product, which is under the Duck brand. Which is more for sticking to sort of rough brickwork and things like that. But probably with every tape, you need to just test an area first and just see if it is compatible, because if it's really dusty and gritty, it can only stick to the dust that's there. So it potentially could come away. So it would be a little bit of a sort of trial and error.
Okay. I said it's interior lime render, I think he said. Let's have a look. Yeah, interior lime render.
It's still going to sort of depend a little bit about exactly. You're going to have to try it, and I probably have the same for any other manufacturer. You're just going to have to do a test area. I'd probably go with the green frog or the Duck exterior masking and try those, but without actually seeing it, and it's difficult to say.
Okay. I've got a comment from Fran McPhillips. She says, I use it all the time when needed, and it's brilliant, well worth the cost. Well, that's nice to hear. I've got a question from Brian Dennett. He says, which tape would you use on freshly painted woodwork, i.e. not fully cured, delicate or gloss satin?
So I would use the delicate surface one, but again, you would just need to test an area first just to make sure that it has, you've got surface compatibility. So with the yellow delicate surface FrogTape, and if you're finding it's pulling sort of substrate away, then heat it with a hairdryer just to soften the adhesive, and that'll come away. So it would be sort of slowly as you go. Again, it's going to be the same for all masking. You should just test an area first.
Okay. You mentioned PaintBlock before. How does it work?
So what it is, it's actually a super absorbent polymer. So it reacts with the water in emulsion paint, and the PaintBlock itself actually just sort of soaks it up. So it's almost similar technology to what's actually in babies' nappies. So if you think now on TV when they advertise baby nappies, they say things about no leak and things like that. It is similar. So it just absorbs the water.
I see. Justin's asking, he says, do you get the same great results when spraying HPLP or airless?
I'm not quite sure what is HPLP. I'm not quite sure what that is. If that's a solvent-based product, then you would just need to run a damp cloth down the edge prior to applying the spray paint. If it's a water-based product, you wouldn't need to do that.
Okay. And Brian Dennett says, does it work the same for both oil and water-based paints? Yes,
that's the same sort of thing. So if it's a water-based or a waterborne product, you would tell that by the wash-up instructions in the paint would be to wash your brushes out in soap and water. So you would apply the tape, paint, and as with all masking, remove the tape while the paint's sort of still wet, or ideally just as it's tacking off is perfect. If it's a solvent-based product or an oil-based product, and you would wash your brushes out in a white spirit or a brush cleaner, then you would apply the tape and run a damp cloth down the edge, and that just kickstarts a little reaction that we did there, and then you can then apply your paint sort of normally.
Okay. I've got a question from Charlie Cable. He says, we spray and tend to use the yellow delicate tape, but still sometimes get pulled. What product would you be advising to use?
I think from that, I'd still probably stick with the delicate surface UI. If the paint's not actually stuck to the wall properly, you are going to get the occasional pull. It's purely because the bond between the paint and the tape is stronger than the bond between the paint and the substrate. So it's not exactly perfect, but if you just sort of heat it with a hairdryer, that might just sort of soften it. You'd have to do it slowly, but just test for sort of surface compatibility first.
Okay. I've got a question from Mark Macaulay in comments. Why do you have to remove as soon as paint has been applied? More often than not, 2 coats are required on walls, as an example. Yeah, that's it. It's just saying sorry if it's already been asked because he lost the session.
No, all masking tape should tell you to remove the paint, remove the tape while the paint is still wet. And the reason for that is that if the paint has dried completely, then you're going to find it's going to crack along the edge, so you're going to get start getting that jagged edge as you sort of pull away. So in this situation where you've applied 2 coats, what I would personally do is, if you find it, just try a little area, and it probably would come away because it sort of wet again all the way through the paint, if you like, back to the bottom. If you're finding it starting to give you a sort of jagged line as the paint's actually dried, then just take a good quality blade and run down the sort of edge of the tape just to cut the paint, because that's what once the paint's dried, it's effectively a skin. So you just cut the edge and then sort of remove away that way.
Okay, and Dave Dean's asking, how long can FrogTape be left on surfaces, interior and exterior?
And we do say Frog is actually an interior product. If you've, depending on which one, because they are slightly different, so as with all masking tapes, they have a thing called preparation time. So the green is a 21-day masking tape. So that means you can apply up to 21 days in front before you start to get any sort of adhesive breakdown. The yellow is actually a 60-day masking. So you can apply up to 60 days in front before you start getting adhesive breakdown and any sort of residue left. The orange is a 21-day masking. The thing that happens is that UV light attacks the adhesive and it starts to break down. So you may get longer and you may get shorter, but you will experience, if you like, outside ultraviolet light strong because it's not coming through. There's no barrier with like a window or something like that. So you may get a shorter time if you're using it outside, but we would actually say that Frog is an interior product.
And how do I know which one to use?
So the instructions are on back of pack, but the green ones, so the green is multi-surface, and they do say sort of across the top as well. I don't know how well that sort of goes across. So green is for things like glass, tiles, ceramics, untreated wood, cured paint, metal. The yellow one is for sort of delicate surfaces, so that's things like freshly painted surfaces, coated wallpaper, new paint, new plaster, things like that. And then the orange one is for sort of gloss and satin, so woodwork. So it's more about the job that you're trying to do when you paint skirting boards and architraves. But there's a lot more detail on back of pack.
Okay. And why is FrogTape kept in the plastic tubs?
Okay, so the plastic container is there to protect the edge of the tape. And again, if you've listened to any of the other tape manufacturers, I'm sure they've all told you to keep the edge of the tape, or keep the tape clean, look after your tape. So the canister is there not to stop it drying out or anything like that. It's there to protect the edge of the tape. So what you're using masking tape for is to get a straight line, and the bit that gives you the straight line is the edge. If you damage the edge in any way, it's no longer a straight line. So the canister is there just to keep that edge nice like we've got here. So the canister is there just to protect the edge, keeps it all lovely, crisp and straight, and make sure that you use an entire roll.
Oh, that makes sense. No wastage.
Yeah.
How far in advance can I apply FrogTape before I paint?
So the green one you can apply up to 21 days in front, as we sort of said a little bit earlier, and the yellow is up to sort of 60 days in front, and then the orange is a 21 days, so up to that sort of time. You're going to get a little bit of variance in that if it's near a window, it's going to go a bit quicker. On a back wall somewhere where there's no sunlight, you won't get those issues.
Okay, I've got a question here. Let's have a look from Nicholas. He says, is there a shelf life for the FrogTape, and what about frost damage? We'd say keep it at sort of room temperature as best you can. I know it's been, so yeah, wouldn't, again, probably the same as all tapes, wouldn't leave them in the van sort of overnight for them to get frosted. It shouldn't make that much
I guess it would sort of eventually start to be okay. But yeah, so if it gets frosted, it's not going to do any good, but it isn't going to, with any masking or any sort of paint, to be fair, you're all going to have the same sort of issue. So yes, we wouldn't do that. So I forgot what the other part of the question was.
Is there a shelf life for FrogTape?
So yeah, so we would say 24 months in terms of sort of shelf life from it, sort of buying it from the retailer. We would expect retailers to stock rotate. We would generally expect that turn to be pretty quick anyway. So wouldn't expect stock to be in a retailer much more than 6 months. So if you like, sort of 18 months sort of life once it's out there.
Okay, and if I'm having problems and it's not sticking to my surface, why is that?
The problem is that there's a contaminant of some description on the surface. So it could be something like oil or dust, anything like that. Would probably be the most likely cause for it not to stick. It will be some form of contaminant in some way. Okay,
I think that brings us to the end of the questions for the session today, unless there's anything anybody else wants to add. We didn't have anyone brave enough, Matt, for you to give away your giveaways. Nobody came up and talked to us.
That's devastating. Oh, well, next time we'll leave the Ferrari, but you never know.
They'll all want to jump up then. Thanks everybody for joining us for this session. There's been some fantastic questions, and thank you all for getting involved. We are launching a competition live in the session, so I'm just going to bring that competition button up for you now. And 10 winners will each receive a twin pack of the FrogTape delicate masking tape, the yellow one there that Matt's holding up. So if you hit the competition button, fill in your details and you'll be entered into the competition, and we will be announcing the winners at the end of the festival at the end of February. I will put a link in the comments there for the rest of the sessions for today and for next week. So if you've not registered, you can have a look what's coming up and register on those sessions. If you've missed anything, you simply use the same links. So you click on as if you're registering for a live event, but then you can just watch it on replay. It's all there for you, and you can enter all of the other competitions we've already launched as well. So thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks again, Matt. It's been great having you on the show, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, everybody. Good luck.